Alright folks, this is Harris Sultan. What I'm about to tell you may distress you, but it needs to be said because the mainstream British media, except for GB News and some smaller publications, won't report it. So I'll talk about it. This video will probably be demonetized or even taken down, but as I said, it needs to be told. I'm sure you've all heard of the grooming gangs, mostly made up of Pakistani men grooming young girls, not young women, but young girls, underage girls, some as young as 11. In fact, I wonder why they're called grooming gangs. They should be called rape gangs. In many cases, gang rape gangs. Yes, this video is about those people who come from a particular religion and community who have developed a special taste for non-Muslim girls. I have to thank Tommy Robinson because he's the one who brought this to light. Had it been left to the incompetent police, we might never have heard about it. In this video, I'll cover everything and also expose some common lies told by Islamist propagandists regarding the nationality and religion of the perpetrators. But let's start with this 106-year sentence that was handed to 7 men, all Pakistani, all Muslims, some with religious Muslim beards. The men were all found guilty in June following a 9-week trial at Sheffield Crown Court, which stemmed from an investigation led by the National Crime Agency as part of Operation Stovewood. NCA Senior Investigating Officer Stuart Cobb described the men as cruel and manipulative, saying they groomed and exploited their victims by subjugating them to the most harrowing abuse possible. Here are the details of their sentences. Tahir Yassin, 38, of Burngreave Street, Sheffield, jailed for 13 years for 8 counts of rape. Ramin Bari, also 38, of Derby Street, Sheffield, jailed for 9 years for 4 counts of rape. Muhammad Amar, 43, of Elizabeth Way, Rotherham, jailed for 14 years plus 2 years on license for 2 counts of indecent assault of a girl aged 11. Yasir Ajibi, 39, of Walter Street, Rotherham, jailed for 6 years plus 1 year on license for indecent assault of a girl aged 11. Muhammad Zamir Sadiq, 49, of Richard Road, Rotherham, jailed for 15 years plus 1 year on license for rape and sexual intercourse with a girl under 13. Muhammad Siab, 45, of Stevenson Drive, Rotherham, jailed for 25 years for sexual intercourse with a girl under 13. 2 counts of rape and trafficking within the UK for sexual exploitation. Abid Sadiq, 43, formerly of Rotherham, jailed for 24 years plus 1 year on license for indecent assault of a girl aged 12, rape of a girl under 13, and 2 counts of rape. An 8th man, Umar Mahmood, 37, of Grosvenor Road, Rotherham, was cleared of 2 counts of rape. The victims, who were both in care and aged between 11 and 16 at the time of the offences in the early 2000s, were groomed and often plied with alcohol or drugs before being raped or assaulted. Zoe Backer from the Crown Prosecution Service said, "These 7 men deliberately preyed on 2 young girls they knew were vulnerable and using drugs and alcohol exploited them for their own sexual gratification. The cruelty and abuse the victims suffered at the hands of these defendants was horrific and has continued to have a lasting impact on their lives today." Okay, now that this part is out of the way, let me tell you, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We now know that at least 1,500 young girls were raped in Rotherham alone. Why didn't the police do anything? A 2015 Daily Mail article reported that at least 54 police officers were accused of turning a blind eye to the abuse. Some are even alleged to have been part of the pedophile sex ring. The Independent Police Complaints Commission, IPCC, is investigating 194 allegations against officers who are said to have ignored the desperate pleas of terrified schoolgirls while they were repeatedly raped. As of now, over 20 men have been convicted in connection with the Rotherham grooming gangs, with ongoing investigations identifying more suspects. Operation Stovewood, the NCA's ongoing investigation, has identified more than 190 suspects and engaged with over 300 victims. This investigation covers abuses that occurred between 1997 and 2013, with estimates suggesting more than 1,500 potential victims in total. The operation is still in progress and more trials are expected in the coming years. When this story broke in 2014, do you know how the Muslim community responded? Instead of distancing themselves from these criminals and condemning them, they told the Muslim community to boycott South Yorkshire police for, and I quote, marginalisation and dehumanisation of Muslims. South Yorkshire police, on the other hand, and the local council were both criticised for failing to avert the scandal, with officers later claiming they failed to intervene for fear of being branded racist. I don't buy that. The reality may be much more sinister. Some officers might have been involved in the rapes themselves, get charged for rape, or get shamed for not acting out of fear of being called racist. I'll leave that with you. Now let's get to the most important part of this video. I'm sure you've heard Muslims say, oh, white men still commit more rapes than Pakistani men. This claim comes from the Home Office report, which I will get into in a moment because let's admit it, 99% of the people making this claim haven't read the report. I have. But most people propagating this claim that the Home Office report admits grooming gangs are not a Muslim problem and that the study finds no credible evidence for a far-right stereotype that has spread widely in the media, mostly rely on a Guardian article written by Ella Cockburn and Waqas Tufail. Let me quote, "The 2-year study by the Home Office makes very clear that there are no grounds for asserting that Muslims or Pakistani heritage men are disproportionately engaged in such crimes. In citing our research, it confirmed the unreliability of the Quilliam claim that 84% of the grooming gang offenders were of Asian heritage." It's a technical lie, but a lie nonetheless. There is no evidence that grooming gang offenders were mostly Muslims or Pakistanis because they dismissed a lot of evidence. The report acknowledges that there are challenges with the data and it advises against drawing definitive conclusions. For example, some studies suggest an overrepresentation of Black and Asian offenders relative to the demographics of the national populations. However, it is not possible to conclude that this is representative of all group-based CSE offending, CSE being child sex exploitation. So what are the challenges? Firstly, some incidents had no ethnicity data recorded. Secondly, there is an issue with the collection of ethnic data as the police often input it instead of allowing the offender to self-report. Aside from occasional mistakes, this wouldn't have had much impact. There were at least 3 significant data collection efforts, and in all of them, Asians were overrepresented. Let me read from the report about this challenge. Police collected data on ethnicity using broad categories, and it required the police to assign an ethnicity rather than it being self-reported by offenders. They discarded a lot of data in the report because it was police recorded rather than self-reported by the offenders. That's one of the main reasons much of the data was labeled as unreliable, leading to the conclusion of no evidence found. For example, in one instance, Child Exploitation Online Protection CEOP gathered data in 2011. In more than half the cases, there was no ethnicity data, but from what remained, 38% were white, while 28% were Asian. This is clear overrepresentation. Let me read from the report. 2,300 possible offenders, but approximately 1,100 were excluded from analysis due to a lack of basic information. In the remaining 1,200 cases, ethnicity data was unknown for 38% of them. Where data was available, 30% of offenders were white, while 28% were Asian. Okay, maybe that wasn't enough. 2 years later, let's try that again. And it gets worse. In 2013, CEOP undertook a second piece of work in this space. Data was requested from all police forces in England and Wales on Contact CSA, and responses were received from 31. So of the 52 groups where the data provided was usable, half of the groups consisted of all Asian offenders. 11 were all white offenders, 4 were all Black, and 2 were exclusively Arab. There were 9 groups where offenders came from a mix of ethnic backgrounds. So looking at the offenders across all groups, of the 306 offenders, 75% were Asian. However, as with CEOP 2011, these figures should be treated with caution due to the amount of missing data. That damn missing data. They're hiding behind a mere technicality. Unless you're telling me that only white people's data is somehow magically not collected and every single Asian man's ethnicity is recorded, it's pretty clear that out of a population of 7%, they are clearly overrepresented. I have a whole thread in this Home Office report, which I'll link below, but I have no doubt in my mind that Muslim men of Pakistani heritage are massively overrepresented in grooming gangs, and not just in Rotherham. The investigation is ongoing. Only 20 people have been convicted so far in Rotherham, despite the number of victims being at least 1,500. The Muslim community keeps quoting this Guardian article, which sources its information from this Home Office report I've just shown you. Their entire argument is built on the fact that the police reported the offender's ethnicity rather than the offender's self-reporting it. The missing data they talk about should affect everyone equally. It cannot make one group worse than it is and the other better than it is. Now let's read the Guardian headline again, now that you understand what's written in the report. Home Office report has concluded that there is no credible evidence that any one ethnic group is overrepresented in cases of child sexual exploitation. You see, they fooled you with a mere technicality. And this report was released under the Tories government. The police didn't pursue these offenders because they were afraid of being labelled as racist. The Home Office issues a report and claims there is no credible evidence, when in reality they dismissed evidence on a technicality. And despite all of that, CEOP's data collection efforts both in 2011 and 2013 across England and Wales show Muslims were clearly overrepresented. 28% in CEOP's 2011 report and 50% in CEOP's 2013 report. Moreover, they didn't consider Skidmore Police's claims that ethnic minorities were massively overrepresented. This seems like a conspiracy. I suggest you read my thread, or better yet, read the report itself, which I'll link below. So I hope you understand what they mean by credible when they say there is no credible evidence that Pakistani men are overrepresented in grooming gangs. As I said, this video is probably going to get demonetized or worse, get taken down. You can support this channel by becoming a patron at patreon.com/HarrisSultan or by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/HarrisSultan. Until next time, ta-da. If you'd like to support my work, you can become my patron by going to patreon.com/HarrisSultan, or you can simply buy me a coffee.